Hello everyone, this is Jack Frost with a little update for silver. Before we get into it, I want to say that I'm currently doing gold analysis 5 times a week for Pure Elliott Wave weekly members, and sometime this month it will be on its own subscription. There will be a link at the bottom of this analysis or at the bottom of the video on YouTube, so you can sign up and be notified when it launches with an exclusive grandfather rate for the first 48 hours. Now getting into it, the price is moving away from resistance with an overall bearish look for the long term. On the main bearish monthly chart, we can see cycle wave 2 may be over just here, finding resistance at the trend channel. It may continue higher, though it cannot move above the start of cycle wave 1 at 29.820. This wave count overall sees grand supercycle wave 2 as an incomplete zigzag, now in its final supercycle wave C, which has a target calculated to reach the Fibonacci ratio of 0.618 times the length of supercycle wave A at 7.46. And within supercycle wave 3, cycle wave 3 is expected to have begun. It can only subdivide as an impulse, and if there is a low below this low of cycle wave B within supercycle wave B at 11.703, there will be added confidence in this wave count. On the weekly chart just here with the end of supercycle wave B here. Supercycle wave C can either be a impulse or a diagonal, and because cycle wave 1 just here subdivides very well as a 5-wave motive structure, it is expected to be an impulse for supercycle wave C. Within the impulse, cycle wave 3 is expected to have begun at this last high where cycle wave 2 ends. Any second wave corrective movement cannot move above its start at 26.123, and primary wave 2 within cycle wave 3 may find resistance at this trend channel here. With price moving back from resistance at this trend channel, downwards movement is expected to continue with increased momentum for the third cycle wave. And cycle wave 3 has a target to reach equality in length with cycle wave 1 at 13.89. And on the daily chart, we can see with cycle wave 3 beginning just here, minor waves 1 and 2, and minute waves 1 and 2 within minor wave 3 may be over here, with a slight increase expected for minuet wave 2 within minute wave 3 to move price slightly higher before minuet, minute, and minor wave 3s all push price much lower. If price makes a new low below 19.909 at the end of primary wave B within cycle wave 2 just here, there will be added confidence as this is the invalidation point for the alternate wave count we'll see in a minute. And on the alternate bullish monthly chart, we can see grand supercycle wave 2 is expected to be a completed zigzag with supercycle wave A, B, and C here. And then within grand supercycle wave 3, we are expected to be within cycle wave 3 of supercycle wave 1, with cycle waves 1 over here and 2 over here. From this end at cycle wave 2, price has continued upwards, with some slight downward movement, which is expected to be a corrective structure within a larger bullish trend. Within grand supercycle wave 3, no corrective movement can move below its start at 11.703, and it must subdivide as an impulse. On the weekly chart within supercycle wave 1, cycle wave 1 just over here, and cycle wave 2 are expected to be over, with an increase in price expected for intermediate wave 3, primary wave 3, and cycle wave 3. With cycle wave 2 over here, cycle wave 3 must begin, and it can only subdivide as an impulse with primary waves 1 and 2 expected to be over here, now with primary wave 3 pushing price higher. Intermediate wave 2 within primary wave 3 is expected to be over here, reaching the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of primary wave 1 at 22.086 quite well. It can move slightly lower, though it cannot move below the start of intermediate wave 1 at 19.909. Primary wave 3 is expected to push price higher with a target calculated to reach 1.618 times the length of primary wave 1 at 31.12. And cycle wave 3 is expected to push price even higher with a target calculated to reach 1.618 times the length of cycle wave 1 at 46.82. On the bullish daily chart, intermediate wave 2 subdivides well as a complete zigzag. It reaches the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio quite well, as mentioned in the weekly chart, with minor wave C moving below minor wave A to avoid a truncation. Increased upwards movement is expected for intermediate wave 3 within primary wave 3, expecting to break through resistance here, though intermediate wave 3 may only reach resistance. And on the technical monthly chart, price has consolidated after this last high here with a bearish engulfing pattern. It found resistance at 30, coming back to test it again. There needs to be a break above resistance at 30 or below support at 17 to mark this consolidation over at this time frame. With ADX indicating no clear trend, RSI and money flow neutral, stochastics neutral, and ATR is overall flat with a slight downward slope. Volume has also dropped off quite steeply and is now declining somewhat gradually. With ADX not indicating a clear trend, we use the model of stochastics and support and resistance, meaning when price reaches either resistance or support, when stochastics reaches overbought or oversold, we can expect a swing to occur then. Currently, using the model of stochastics and support and resistance, an upward swing is expected to be underway and may continue until price reaches resistance around here and stochastics reaches overbought. On the weekly chart, there is no clear trend indicated by ADX as on-balance volume continues in its range. RSI, money flow, and stochastics neutral, with stochastics slightly entering oversold. Volume and range have declined quite steeply with bullish movements, which indicates weakness. Overall, the volume profile is bearish and price is expected to continue to fall. And on the daily chart, price has moved down with declining volume after it reached resistance at 24.5. There is a slight push from volume in bearish candlesticks, which lends significance to the main Elliott wave count, and it indicates strength in the bearish movements. ADX indicates no clear trend, RSI, money flow, and stochastics all neutral. ATR has also declined as price has moved up recently, just here. This suggests that it was a counter-trend bounce and indicates weakness in bullish movements, though with increased volume for this last session, the bounce may not be over. That's all for me today with your update for silver. I will remind everyone about the link below so you can sign up to be notified when the gold subscription is launched with an exclusive grandfather rate for the first 48 hours. Thanks, and I hope everyone has a good weekend.